Jace had no idea his life would change that day. He was just walking through the market looking for some cheap food. The outer colony markets were always noisy and dusty, filled with traders, strange smells, and shouting voices. He liked it that way. No one cared who you were. You were just another face trying to survive. He stopped at a fruit stall, picked up a glowing orange pear-like fruit, and was about to ask the price when someone grabbed his hand tight. He turned quickly. A woman stood there. Not just any woman. Her skin was smooth like pale crystal, with soft patterns of glowing silver across her cheeks. Her eyes were wide and violet. Her long, dark blue hair fell over her shoulders. She looked like she had come out of a dream. But she was shaking. "Please," she whispered fast. "Pretend to be my husband now." Jace blinked. "What? They're watching me? If they think I'm alone, they'll take me?" "You have to act now," she said, her hand still gripping. His wrists like her life depended on it. Before he could say anything else, she pulled him close and leaned into him like a lover. "Put your arm around me, smile, say something sweet. They're walking toward us." Jace looked over her shoulder and saw 3 tall, armored figures in dark cloaks walking slowly through the crowd. They had red symbols on their chest plates. Their faces were covered, but their gaze was cold. Hunters, maybe? Or worse. "Okay," he said, unsure why he was agreeing. But something in her voice made him trust her. He put his arm around her and smiled. Fake at first, but the way she looked up at him made it real for a second. "There you are, love," he said, trying to sound natural. "Found the fruit you like." The woman gave a soft laugh that sounded both nervous and beautiful. "Yes, husband," she said. The cloaked men passed by. One of them stared at them for a long moment. Then they kept walking. She didn't let go until they were out of sight. Then she turned to him, her eyes shining with tears. "Thank you." "Saved me," she said. Jay stepped back a little. "All right, what's going on? Who are you? Why me?" She looked around quickly, then pulled him toward the back of a quiet alley behind a closed shop. "My name is Varelia. I'm not from here. I was hiding, but they found me. I had no one else." "You said they'll take you?" he asked. She nodded. "I escaped from a royal house. If they want to send me back to marry someone I don't want, they'll force me. But according to galactic law, if I'm married to someone outside my planet, they can't touch me." "Eh?" "Fake husband. Yes," she said. "And I can pay. I have credits. I have documents ready. I just needed someone who looks honest. You looked kind." Jace ran a hand through his hair. This was crazy. She was beautiful, sure, but this sounded like a bad idea. Am I getting involved in royal drama? "No thanks." He started to walk away. Then she said it softly. "If you leave now, they'll take me tonight. I have no one else. Please, just help me for a few days. Just stay." He turned back. She was standing there, looking small, despite her tall figure. Her hands were shaking. She wasn't lying, he could see it. This wasn't a scam, this was real fear. Jace sighed. "All right, where do we go?" Her eyes lit up, and for the first time, she smiled. A real smile. "My homecome." They walked through the market like husband and wife. People looked at them differently now, walked with their head high. Jace could feel the change in her. A hover car waited at the edge of the market. Sleek, shiny, expensive. Guards opened the door when they arrived, and bowed to her and then to him. "Lord Husband," one of them said. Jace blinked. "Excuse me." But she pulled him inside and whispered, "Just smile." The door shut behind them, and the car floated into the sky as they rose above the colony. Jace looked out the window, then back at her. "What did you just drag me into?" She reached into a small box and placed a glowing silver ring into his palm. "Welcome to my life," she said. "Now you're my husband." He stared at the ring. This was no longer pretend. Asterisk sat frozen in the seat of the floating car, the glowing silver ring still in his hand. The woman beside him, Varelia, rested quietly with her eyes closed, but her hands were clenched in. Her lap, she was calm on the outside, but her fear hadn't left. It was hiding just under her skin, like thunder behind quiet clouds. He looked down at the ring, smooth, cool, and humming faintly like it had a pulse. "Are you sure about this?" Jace asked. She opened her eyes slowly. "It's already done. Once I enter my estate with you wearing that ring, the law will recognize you as my chosen husband in name, protected under the Interworld Treaty, but I'm just a mechanic," he muttered. "Not some space prince." She gave him a quick glance. "That's why it works. You have no political value. No one can use you. That makes you ... safe." The car landed softly outside a towering white structure built into the edge of a cliff. Trees grew along the walls, glowing with blue. Petals. Jace stepped out with her, still unsure. Ow. The guards bowed again. This time they handed him a thick silver band, the second part of the marriage lock. "By placing this on your finger, you become Lord Consort under House Varelia," one guard said with a respectful tone. "All household systems will now respond to your voice as well." Jace turned to Varelia. "You didn't say anything about that?" She sighed. "We need to be convincing. I know it's a lot. Just wear it." For now, he slid the ring on. It locked into place with a sharp click. Suddenly, doors opened by themselves. Lights flickered softly in welcome. Even the house whispered. "His name? Welcome, Lord Consort Jace." His name echoed across the smooth glass hallways like he had always belonged here. Varelia led him into a grand room filled with stars. The ceiling above was a transparent dome, showing the real night sky. The bed was huge. Too huge. The room smelled like soft flowers and heat. Everything was warm, but her next words made the room go cold. "You'll sleep here," Jace raised an eyebrow. "In this room?" She nodded. "They'll be watching. The house security is connected to the Interworld Court. If we want this to be real, we must live as real." Jace looked at the bed again, then back at her. "That doesn't mean we have to act married all the time, right?" She walked to a small drawer and pulled out a thick book bound in dark red leather. "This is the marriage treaty book of House Varelia. You'll have to memorize parts of it. There are questions that inspectors ask to check if a marriage is real." He flipped through the pages. Strange symbols. Questions like what color are her dreams? What fruit does she eat when afraid? Jace looked up, puzzled. "What do these questions mean?" She smiled faintly. "Alien law is emotional. They believe true couples know each other's heart." "Great," he muttered. "I barely know your name." "That's why we'll practice," she said, sitting across from him every night. They began to talk, first awkwardly, then honestly. She told him about her home planet where noble girls are trained to smile and obey. She had once been next in line to marry a powerful war general. She ran before it happened. He told her about Earth, about his shop, his broken tools, and his small life. She laughed when he told her he once fixed a spaceship engine with chewing gum and wire. The laughter made her seem less alien, more human, but as the night got darker, Jace noticed something. She never let him near one part of the room, a small door on the left wall. It had no handle, and she always stepped between him and it, even when pretending not to. "What's in there?" he asked casually. Her smile vanished. "Nothing you need to see." Her voice was firm, cold. Jace didn't push. But the seed of curiosity was planted. They both lay down on the large bed far apart. She faced the wall.
"Oh."
He stared. At the stars above, just before sleep came, she whispered softly, "If anyone finds out the truth, not just about USS, but what I hide, you won't just lose the marriage, you'll lose your life." Jace's eyes opened wide. He looked at the ceiling, but all he could think about was the door with no handle and the glowing ring now bound. To his finger, he came for fruit. Now he was married, guarded, locked inside a mansion, and sharing a bed with a woman who whispered secrets into the dark, and he had no idea what she was really running from. End of part 2. Jace heard it before he saw it. A soft scraping noise against the window, like metal scratching glass. He sat up straight in the dark, heart racing. The stars above their bed still glowed through the ceiling dome, but everything else was silent. Too silent, he turned toward Varelia. She was asleep on the far edge of the bed, her breathing slow and calm. arms hugging a pillow close. Another sound came, a short crack, like something stepped on a branch. But there were no trees up here. Jay slid off the bed quietly and tiptoed to the tall glass window near the wall. Outside, only the cliff and empty sky stretched for miles. He leaned in closer, then he saw it. A figure crouched low near the base of the outer balcony wall. Dark cloak, red, glowing eyes. It was not moving like a guard. It was sneaking, watching. Jace's fingers tensed into fists. His training kicked in. Before he came to the outer colonies, he had done security work on Earth, and this wasn't the first time he'd seen a shadow trying to break in. But here, on a quiet estate in the middle of nowhere, this was a problem much bigger than a thief. He stepped back and grabbed a small stun device from the drawer. It wasn't much, but it could stop someone for 5 seconds. Maybe enough time to shout for help. Suddenly, a loud humming sound echoed through the estate. Breach detected. Outer sensor triggered. The voice came from every wall. Lights blinked on. Security drones flew down from the ceiling with sharp blue lasers spinning. Varelia woke up fast, eyes wide. "What's happening? Have company?" Jace said. "Someone's watching us." She stood and ran to a screen, showed a live feed of the outer wall. The figure was gone. "They were here," Jace said. "I know," she whispered. "They come sometimes, testing, waiting." He turned to her. "Who are they?" She shook her head. "If I tell you, it will make you a target too." "I'm already a target," he said. "Remember? Fake husband?" "Real problems." She looked down, then back at him. "They're called the Red Circle. They worked for my would-be husband, hunt me across planets. And if they ever take me, I won't come back." Jay stared at her. "Then why stay here? Why not run again?" Pointed at his hand, the ring. "I can't run anymore. The treaty protects me only if I stay with you. If you leave, they can take me legally." Jace exhaled and sat back on the bed. This just keeps getting worse. The next morning, the security team searched the grounds. They found a small claw-shaped tool stuck in the wall, a sign that someone had tried to climb up but failed. Varelia stared at it for a long time. Then she turned and walked back into the house. She didn't say a word until breakfast. "I have to show you something," she said. Jace followed her down a winding staircase to a room he had never seen before. A library filled with glowing books and long scrolls, written in strange alien languages. In the center was a silver box, floating in the air, surrounded by a quiet humming field. She reached for it, placed her hand on top, and it opened. Inside, it was a tiny crystal cube, no larger than a coin. "This is why they're chasing me," she said. "This cube holds my bloodline data. If I present it to the council, they'll crown me as next ruler. But if my enemy gets it, he can destroy my rights forever." Jay stared at it. "Why keep it here? Not hide it somewhere else?" She gave him a sad smile. "'Cause I wanted someone to protect it. Someone who had nothing to gain." He didn't know what to say. "You've seen the spy," she continued. "Now you know what's coming. They won't stop. Can still leave, Jace." He stepped back and stared at her. "And if I do, they'll take me tonight." That line again. He heard it every time. But now it wasn't just a warning. It felt like a promise. He looked around the room, the house, and the crystal in her hand. "No," he said finally. "Because this is no longer just your fight," he said. "It's mine, too." She closed the cube and pressed it to his chest gently. "Then you're more than a fake husband now." That night, as they lay in bed again, the stars above seemed brighter. But outside, in the distant shadows of the cliff, 2 red lights blinked once and vanished. Asterisk, the whisper came from behind the wall. Not a voice, something more like a soft breath, warm and strange. Passing through the cracks, Jace was alone in the bedroom. Varelia had gone to speak with a representative from the Interworld Marriage Council, who had suddenly arrived for a surprise check. The inspector demanded a private meeting with her. No husband allowed. Jace didn't like it, but she insisted. So now he was pacing the room, restless. His eyes kept drifting toward the one place she always avoided, the small, silver door with no handle, hidden in the corner behind a glowing curtain. He had never touched it before. She always stood between him and that space. Even the house systems refused to open it, saying, "Access denied, restricted to Lady Verelia's genetic code." But now, something changed. The silver ring on Jace's finger began to glow faintly, like it was reacting to something. The closer he got to the door, the stronger the ring pulsed. He placed his hand on the wall beside the door, clicked a seam split through the surface. The door opened. Jace hesitated. Everything in him said this was crossing a line, but something deeper told him he needed to know what she was hiding. If he was to protect her, if this fake marriage was turning into something more, he had to know the truth. He stepped inside. It was a small room, no bigger than a closet. But in the center sat a large black chest, made of obsidian with glowing red lines running across it like veins. It looked alive. The air was thick, heavy. He approached. Slowly, there was no lock, just a circular plate on top. Without thinking, he placed his ringed hand on it. The chest opened with a soft hiss. Inside was not gold, not weapons, not secret scrolls. It was a small breathing pod. And inside, it curled like a kitten, was a child, a little girl, with blue-tinted skin, glowing silver freckles on her cheeks. Long hair like Verelia's, eyes closed, sleeping. Jace's breath caught. He stepped back. What was this? A voice behind him made him jump. You weren't supposed to see her. He turned. Verelia stood at the door, her face pale. Who is she? Jace asked quietly. My daughter, Verelia said. Her name is Alira. His heart pounded harder. You never told me I couldn't, she said, because she is the real heir to my line. If they find her, they'll use her, take her, or worse. I pretended she was dead when I escaped. Even the council believes I'm childless. Jace stared at the little girl. Her chest rose and fell softly, peacefully. She had no idea how dangerous the world outside was. Why keep her here? He asked, in this tiny box. She's in stasis, Verelia said, till it's safe. I visit her every day. But if anyone finds out, the treaty protections will break. They'll say I hid royal property of my own daughter. Jace stepped toward her slowly. Why trust me now? Because I heard what you told the guard, she said, that you'd die protecting me, that you were done pretending. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a second ring, smaller, made of soft crystal. This was meant for my true husband, someone I could trust. I kept it in this room, close to her. I thought I'd never give it to anyone. Out. But I'm giving it to you now. Jace didn't speak. He simply took the ring and slid it onto his other hand. What does this mean? He asked. Verelia smiled gently. It means you're no longer just my fake husband. That night, the secret between them was no longer a wall. It was a shared promise. But across the stars, in a cold metal chamber, someone watched their every move. The inspector who had visited wasn't from the marriage council. It was working for the Red Circle, and now they knew the truth. The alarm didn't give a warning this time. It was no soft humming voice, no blinking lights. It's just a single explosion. It shook the ground beneath the estate. Jace was in the kitchen, slicing fruit for breakfast, when the shockwave slammed him into the wall. The glass bowl shattered on the floor. Red juice spread like blood before he could recover. The second blast came closer, louder, tearing a hole through the outer gate. Verelia, he shouted. She was already running down the hallway toward him, her long robe fluttering behind her, a small device in her hand glowing red. They found us, she said. It's not just spies this time. It's a full strike team. Jace didn't waste time asking how they got past planetary security. He grabbed the emergency case hidden beneath the floorboards, pulling out 2 pulse pistols and a collapsible shield unit. He tossed one pistol to her. Verelia caught it without blinking. You ever use one of these? Jace asked. She raised an eyebrow. I trained with weapons since I was 6. Right, princess stuff. She smiled, but only for a moment. The next blast hit the garden wall, shaking the house again. Outside, 5 black figures leaped over the rubble like wolves. Their armor was slick, their eyes burning red. Their hands carried energy lances that cut through metal like butter. Virelia activated the defense grid. Lights flickered to life. The walls shimmered with blue barriers, and drones zipped through. The air targeting intruders, but the red circle attackers were fast. Too fast, Jason took cover near the front entrance, blasting at the first enemy who tried to climb the stairs. The man fell hard, rolling down with smoke pouring from his chest plate. But more followed. From the side, 2 agents launched magnetic charges. One exploded near the pillar, tearing a hole in the wall. "They're not here to capture," Jace yelled. "They're here to kill." Virelia shouted back. "Not me. They want the child." Jace's heart dropped. Lyra, he turned, sprinted down the corridor, sliding through the hall into the hidden chamber. The obsidian chest was still there, but the stasis pod was blinking. Something had triggered its failsafe. A loud bang behind him. One of the attackers had followed. He turned and fired. The intruder ducked behind the wall, but not before tossing a sonic pulse bomb into the chamber. Jace grabbed the pod and threw himself over it. The explosion was sharp, right, and full of static. His ears rang. Pain cut through his shoulder, but the child inside the pod still safe. He heard Virelia's voice through the comm unit. "Fall back to the escape tunnel." Now Jace ran. Carrying the pod under his arm, he leaped over broken tiles and sparks. Ducking under falling beams as flames spread across the estate, Virelia met him near the back wall, pressing her hand against a hidden panel. A stone door opened. "Go," she said, firing behind him to cover their retreat. "Don't stop." They ran through a narrow tunnel that twisted downward, deeper and deeper into the mountain behind the estate. The sounds of war faded behind them, but they both knew it was not over. When they reached the end of the tunnel, it opened into a wide cave-in old docking bay from centuries ago. Hidden ships rested in shadows. Jace placed the pod gently on a soft surface and turned to her. They knew exactly where to hit. Someone told them. She nodded. "The inspector. I saw the tattoo on his wrist. Red circle." "Then they know about the child now." Virelia's voice cracked. "Yes." He looked at her, tired, shaken, hair a mess. Blood on her sleeve. But her eyes, they still burned. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what? For dragging you into this? I wanted a fake marriage. I didn't think you'd end up carrying my child's life in your arms." Jace stepped close. "I'm glad you did." She looked up, confused. He touched her hand. "I'm not pretending anymore." Virelia's lips parted, but before she could speak, a sudden sound cut through the cave. A soft click, then a cold voice. "Step away from the pod, human." One last red circle agent had followed them, but this time, Jace didn't wait. He pulled the second pulse pistol from his boot and fired twice. The agent fell. Smoke filled the air. Virelia stared at him. "Stunned? You could have run," she said. J.C. looked at her, then the child. "I'm not leaving," he said. "Not now. Not ever." Asterisk, the old ship shook as it flew through the clouds, cutting through the night like a ghost. The stars above were silent, but Jace could hear Virelia's heartbeat, where she sat beside him, fast and uneven.
Oh.
In her lap, the stasis pod holding. Her daughter stayed closed and blinking, dim blue light flashing once every 5 seconds like a countdown. They didn't speak at first. There was too much ash in the air, too many things destroyed behind them. The estate, the garden, the library gone. Only memories now, and yet. Virelia hadn't cried. Not until the ship hit orbit and the stars became clear again. Then she quietly turned her face, wiped her cheek with one trembling hand and whispered, "I've lost everything." Jace looked at her. "No, you haven't." Eyes met his, tired, but still proud. "You don't understand. Noble without land is nothing. Ruler with no court is just a ghost. They'll erase my name from the records. They'll declare my daughter invalid. They'll say, I was never born." He reached across and took her hand. "You have me," he said. She didn't pull away. In silence, they flew toward one of Earth's secret orbit stations, hidden in a quiet pocket of the sky, used long ago during the machine wars. The place had been empty for years, until now, when they docked. Jace activated the old defense grid, powered up the life systems, and converted a cargo bay into a new nursery. Didn't ask. He just did it. Virelia watched him quietly. "You're acting like a real husband now," she said. He shrugged. "Maybe because I feel like one." The next day, the news reached them. The Red Circle had declared her a traitor. The interworld. Marriage Council had frozen their registry, claiming the marriage under review. All treaties were off. If caught, she would be treated as a political prisoner, and any human found sheltering her would be executed. She stood in front of the message screen, eyes fixed, shoulders heavy. "You can walk away now," she said. JC was checking the backup generators. He didn't even pause. "No." She turned, surprised. "You didn't even think about it." "I already thought about it," he said. "Back when I first saw you in the market, back when you grabbed my hand and said, 'Pretend.' I said yes. And every time after that, Ty kept saying yes. But you could die." He looked up at her. "I could have died years ago in a war no one remembers, but this means something." She stepped closer. "Why?" "Because you need someone who stays. And I need someone who believes I can be more than just a broken man fixing broken machines." Virelia blinked, then smiled. Small. Real. He smiled back. They sat in the observation deck that night, watching the stars pass by like soft falling snow. She leaned her head on his shoulder, quiet and warm. "I used to dream about this," she said softly. "Not the war or the hiding, just someone who looked at me like I was more than a name, more than a title." "You're more," he said. They sat like that for a long time, until the alert buzzed again. A visitor ship was requesting docking. Jace jumped up, ready for a fight, but the scan showed only one life form on board, and the ID code matched the real. Interworld marriage inspector sent to check on the couple. Virelia stepped forward, dressed in soft white, hair braided, calm but powerful. "Do we play pretend again?" Jace asked. She looked at him and reached for his hand. "No, not this time." They stood together as the inspector entered. He was old, wise-eyed, and silent. As he scanned the documents, he looked at the rings, the stasis pod, the child, then at them. "Are you ready to swear this bond?" he asked. Virelia nodded. "Yes." Jace glanced at her. "Wait, swear? Like real swear?" She smiled gently. "Yes, no more pretending. Not after everything." Jace's heart beat faster. Then he nodded. "Let's do it." The inspector handed them 2 silver bands, new ones, forged from both human and alien code. "Speak the truth," the inspector said, "and speak it with your soul." Virelia held Jace's hand. He held hers. And in that moment, no war, no hunters. No fake names or false documents could touch them. They were no longer pretending. They were real. The stars were calm, but the storm was already on its way. Inside the old orbit station, Jace adjusted the last fusion panel, while Virelia stood behind him, her daughter Alira sleeping peacefully in a protective cradle. Glowing walls around them hummed with energy, but they both knew the peace wouldn't last. Warning message blinked on the main screen. Unauthorized fleet approaching. 7 ships. Red Circle command. Jace stared for a moment, then turned to Virelia. "We knew they'd come." She nodded. "They won't stop unless I surrender or die." Jace's voice was steady. "Then we don't let either happen." He walked to the control panel and began activating the hidden defense grid 1. Of the station's last working systems from the old war era, it wasn't much. But it was something. "You know," he said, "the law finally sees us as husband and wife. But this right here, this choice to stay, to fight for each other, this is what makes it real." Virelia smiled, but her eyes were tired. "I never wanted to fall in love while running for my life." "You didn't fall," Jace said softly. "You stood, and I stood with you." The station began to shake slightly as the enemy ships got closer. Jace handed her a headset. We fight together. I'm not just your husband on paper. I'm your partner in everything now. Even death, she asked. He grinned. Especially that. The first ship landed on the outer ring. Loud, heavy. Hunters poured out like shadows this time with full armor, energy shields, and thermal weapons. Their leader stepped forward, a tall alien commander with red eyes and silver armor shaped. Like bone, bring me the child, he commanded through the comms. Or everyone here dies. Virilia stepped up to the glass and pressed a button to reply. You will not touch my daughter, she said, and you will not take my husband. No more hiding, Jace added. You came for one. But now we're 3. The Red Circle began their attack. The station shook with explosions. Fire burst through the lower decks. Security drones deployed. Jace ran through the hallways, dodging blasts, returning fire with everything he had. Virilia fought alongside him, blade in one hand, energy pistol in the other, her movements graceful and deadly. They defended not just themselves, but their family in the nursery. Illyria's stasis cradle was moved into a secure room, protected by shielding stronger than anything else on the station. Jace sealed the doors himself. No one touches her, he whispered. In the final moments of the battle, the Red Circle leader broke through and confronted Jace directly. You're just a human, the alien spat. You don't belong in her world. Jace stood bleeding, bruised and tired but firm. I didn't belong in mine either. But she gave me a place, and now I'm never leaving it. He raised the last charge and triggered the internal defense spica system buried in the core of the station that unleashed a solar burst through the walls. Light filled the entire station. Red Circle fighters screamed as their systems overloaded. The leader dropped his weapon. Virilia leapt forward and ended it with one precise SOC. Silence followed. The enemy was gone. Smoke and sparks still filled the air, but Jace and Virilia stood together, hands held, the war behind them. Later, they sat near the observation deck. Stars shining beyond the glass. Illyria safe beside them. She grow up free now, Jace said quietly. And with a father, Virilia added, not a pretend one, a real one. Jace looked at her. You were never just a job to me, she touched his chest. And you were never just a husband for show. You were the only one who stayed when everyone else ran. He leaned in, kissed her gently, and the stars above seemed to glow brighter from the edge of the galaxy. A new message blinked on the screen. Noble. House of Virilia reinstated by emergency council order. Marriage verified. Child, protected by human law. She looked at Jace with tears in her eyes. You did this, she said. No, he replied. We did this together. And together they walked forward, not as fugitives, not as strangers, but as something rare in the galaxy. A real family.